I'm Brent Leary.
I think Paul Greenberg. First I forgot the days, then I forgot the weeks. So I don't know what day it is. I don't know what week it is. I don't know what time it is. So I'm not sure my name's actually Paul Greenberg either. But for the sake of this, I'm Paul Greenberg.
Yeah, you got to say that because I can't go on until you at least say that part.
I'm just hoping that's true.
And I'm hoping that we are the CRM Playaz, sheltering in place for what is this, like week 10?
Again, I watched those a while back. I have no idea.
I've literally lost track of time while we.
All I know is I'm looking forward to the 2022 World Series.
Yeah,
it's either next week, next year, or sometime.
Let me introduce our third co-host. You ready?
Yeah. Yeah, you really like it. No. Tim Kaine with his bandit. That was awesome.
That is Black Bart. Look, I'm sorry. The look on his face with that bandana crossed up. That is just awesome.
But look at his hands too. He looks like he's about ready to draw a pair of guns.
Like the 6 shooters.
Like two guns ready to blaze, man.
You better not lie to me on this next question.
That's right.
But the caption, now I like the caption. Tim Kaine once shot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
I know, it's perfect.
It's almost as good as, remember that at the, I forget, one of those commercials for like this Wild West documentary. Let's say it's Tim Kaine once shot a man just for snoring.
No, I don't remember that, but this is more dramatic, but that one's better.
I like just shot a man just for snoring. You got to be a pretty bad hombre just to shoot some dude because he's snoring a little bit too loud.
There's a Yiddish word for that. I'm sure Alan would know. It's called schnurr, and it just simply means the kind of person who basically has no, like, not is poor, just is feeds off everyone else just because he wants to, right? That's a schnurr. So if you shot a guy for being a schnurr, you could kind of understand that. You kind of understand that.
I would just say, if Tim Kaine had this bandana over his face back in 2016 during the vice presidential debates, that might have been the difference.
That's right, hands down winner.
Because who'd be fool enough to vote against him, looking like that?
The man filled with lead would be fool enough. Fool enough.
All right, Tim. Thanks for giving us something to laugh at during the course of the events here. And once again, that the guy snores, just let him snore. That's all.
That's right. If he's a schnurr, though.
a snoring schnurr.
A snoring schnurrer.
That's just a little bit too much.
Yeah, I'm Jewish, and that's too much for me.
All right, we got almost too much to put into one show here, but we're going to do it because we have some special
we always
guests.
do it. That's
we just what we do. Schnerzers or not, Schnerzers or not.
Sure.
A few minutes, our buddy Anand Thakur is going to be joining us, Mr. Martek.
Until he tells us this, I for years, I shouldn't say years, for a couple of years that I've known him, I call him Anand Thakur. Okay.
You thought he was related to Margaret, apparently.
That's right. He was the child that Margaret actually wanted.
Uh-oh. All right. So he'll be here in a few minutes. And then the segment that everybody just continues to talk about, pins. We like to call it pins.
That's right. You stick a needle in pins.
Yes. Protect the identity, not the stupidity. We got an entry from our buddy Alan Bertson from Freshworks. So we're actually going to have Alan come in and kind of explain, the entry that he sent us, and we're going to rib Alan as well, but we're not going to tell you why. There are a lot of reasons why we could rib him, but we're going to leave it to. We
do. It's like
it's just something we like doing.
And the foundation of the whole show, as far as I can tell at this point.
It's part of our corporate brand.
That's
We'll be talking about
I
that.
rest my case.
Yeah. And we're gonna have a winners watch list this time around. It is Variant and Ryan Hollenbeck. Isn't it Hollenbeck? Hollenbeck, who is going to be joining us towards the end of the show after Mr. PG does his watch list summit.
And I want you to see something about their entry, guys. So
what's that?
Gird your loins. Look how long this is. Wait.
There it is. Wow, that's pretty thick.
100 some odd pages, 153 pages.
And Paul is going to read every page during the
what I'm saying here. And not only that, I'm going to zoom in on each picture and explain it.
And we're going to have Tim Kaine actually do a part of that.
That's right. He's going to shoot the thing full holes.
There it is. And so, but before we jump in and have Anna join us, I always like to do a little bit of a recap of the happy hour because they've been going really well. But this one was a little bit different than the others.
Yeah. I mean, it's like this normally we're just shooting the breeze with everybody and telling stories. This one, though, I had this thing on my mind for quite a while. Actually, I've been debating, and I'm not really debating this. I actually have a clear perspective, but I'm trying to get some input, see if I was nuts or not. And here's the deal. If you look at everybody's output these days, their marketing stuff, aside from the good works that we want to see, what they're doing around COVID-19, you're also seeing, let's call it the bad works that we don't want to see, which is, companies are being forced by COVID-19 to digitally transform. Digital transformation is top of mind because COVID-19's making them hurry to it, and intensify their efforts. And now, even if they didn't want to digitally transform, they have to. And then you see studies of companies who think that COVID-19 actually caused their digital transformation. I saw one that was the number one reason. It was like 69%. I can't remember which study it was. So I am of the mind that that's not true. I'm of the mind that we just are seeing a shift in what I'm calling, just for the hell of it, the digital analog balance, meaning we're shifting a lot more toward the use of digital tools, but that's not digital transformation. That's the use of digital tools, right? Digital transformation involves business model changes, culture changes. It's a deep transformation, and it's a business transformation of the entire company in a fundamental way to align with the world as it is, as opposed to we're using Zoom a lot more now. Right. And which is pretty much what people somehow think is digital transformation. And I'm obviously oversimplifying. So we put the word out to the entire hour, really. And we got some really, I'd say in general, people were in agreement, but we got some very interesting takes on the response. I think we got them ranging from, state of mind, mindset, worldview, transformation first, use of tools comes last, which that's inarguable. I mean, that one, it's you and I have been talking about that when it came to all tools, all technology forever. Because, people used to buy CRM systems, throw them away, sit them down and say, okay, now what do we do with this? Right. I mean, and then you and I know, have always been advocates strongly on develop the strategy, develop the program, start realigning your culture, start doing all these things, then figure out what technology you need to enable all that, and then enable it, right? So technology choice was last. And that really is fundamentally in digital transformation, that's the case, because it's a business transformation that puts you in a position to start using digital tools in a way that transforms all the models and approaches and communications you have with other companies. Companies or individuals. And so the discussion went on from the standpoint of down to the individual mindset, all the way up to kind of the broad global means. And then if you remember, it led to that whole discussion on the value of definitions and words.
Yeah, it got deep.
It did. Well, I remember Olga Reinhold was talking about the nature of things at one point, which is a pretty damn deep philosophical conception. And but it was very different, and there's going to be a lot of writing out of it. One thing I did is I offered guest posts that I hope would lean toward that subject. In post HH, emails, I've gotten 2 or 3 asking to do guest posts, and I'm going to be writing something. And Marshall Lager actually has one in progress, which now I am announcing publicly to everybody. So he has to finish it.
Yeah, he has to finish it. So that's good. I mean, it was a really interesting discussion. Quite honestly, a little bit deeper than I was thinking would happen for a happy hour, but it was cool. I just kind of sat back and took it all in. It's really interesting. I just kind of look at it and say, like, I think a lot of people look at digital transformation. They really mean digital transition, meaning how can we do what we've always done and use technology to do that just more effectively, efficiently, and cheaper. Yeah. And not necessarily transform, meaning change what we do and why, how we do it and why we do it. They've always kind of stuck to, we just want to do what we've always done cheaper and with less effort. That's kind of been the driver. But, and it's particularly, I think, coming out of what we're facing now and what will come out of it eventually, that's not going to be enough. Like you're saying, it's just not going to be enough to just try to do the same thing more efficient and more cost effective. That will just get you to a failure faster, I think.
Our esteemed horseman, Pestilence, aka Esteban, right? He actually used to call it, rightfully, before anyone else did. They were all calling it digital transformation. He was calling it business transformation, which is what we're really talking about. It's a business transformation to align with the digital age, right? And that's a very different form of business model, and up through your pricing structures. I mean, everything changes. Everything. And to your point, it is right now, and this isn't even really a digital transition. I mean, we're using tools we already got, right? We already have, right? And it's not like we're inventing new forms of tools to fulfill the digital, global scope that we have to fulfill. We're actually just utilizing pretty much Zoom and a few other tools to communicate much more frequently than we ever have. So the scale is bigger, the scope is shifted. And the way I characterize it, which actually, for once in a while, I actually like what I say. And I characterized, I said, we're not, everyone's talking about this sprint to the finish with digital transformation. It's gone from a marathon to a sprint to the finish line. I'm saying we're sprinting to the starting line right now, not the finish line. So, because this the one thing that this shift heavily toward digital tool uses can do, once these efficiencies of it all are studied, and once the effectiveness is studied, and the productivity, and and then the impact on customers in the core parts of the communication, it might lead companies to conclude we need to take this further and begin to transform our company around the changes or the benefits we've seen from this. And I mean, right now, the only study I saw actually said there was a 1% decrease in productivity, right? Which is not exactly a great ad for digital transformation.
All right. Yeah. I mean, we're just at the very beginning stages. I've been hosting this series for Pega called Pega Responds, and it's talking to different of their vertical industry leaders on the impact of COVID is having on these different verticals. And it's been really interesting to ask, what are each of these industries going to look like after we get past this? And cool kind of things that they're bringing up. So, we'll see what happens. But now,
on the show links, put up the links to the Pega so people can read. I think that's really interesting. Like really interesting.
We've already talked about financial services. We did healthcare this week. Next week's going to be really interesting. It's going to be around public sector and government. And
wow! But actually, definitely put a links for people to tune in on that one. I actually want to hear that too.
All right. Well, we also want to hear from our buddy. Now, check this out. He's got a green screen.
Oh man!
Look at this dude here, Anand Thakur. I'm joining us. Hey, thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you guys, do I look okay? I'm kind of in the middle of the woods. So I had to kind of ad hoc a few things. So if my video looks a little shaky, just give me a little patience here, and we'll
put up a green screen and what, like you could put up animated video of like a train going by.
Yeah, I was, of course, now I'm on a laptop. I won't say which one it is, but it requires a lot of processing power in order to do this. And
green screen is no joke. Yeah,
we are talking about real ad hoc here. We're talking about, I don't have an actual video camera. I'm using my phone's camera, which actually has pretty decent, video cam. So we're doing a little piecemeal type of effort here, and we'll.
Whoa! Well, you're getting pretty damn good. Look, you got better lighting than I do.
I'm like, hey, piecemeal. That goes right with what we do here at the Playaz, man. You've come to the right spot. Let's put it like that.
Is the green screen actually covering something up?
It's more of like a background.
No, but I mean, it's like if you took it down, it would be like a dumpster or something like that behind it.
No, it's not that. Here, let's just give you a peek, right? Like, everybody wants to know what's in it. Ready?
That's right.
Ready?
Yeah.
Oh, the wall.
It's just
the wall.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Not as
exciting as you. The wall. I think I see Roger Waters, Dave Gilmore.
Right. Oh yeah. No, you know what? I can't believe you actually bought a green screen just to cover up 2 outlets.
Well, it was, believe it or not, it was a client who wanted me to sit in on some board meetings, and was like, all right, no matter where you go, take this green screen with you and some clips, right? And
I think the
idea was like, we don't want the background to be distracting, right? And so I was like, all right, fine, just send it to me. So literally, I have like a little bit of a portable lighting photo studio if I ever wanted to do the whole take pictures and videos or product placement type of pieces for marketplaces. I'm ready to go. But I don't know.
Hey, I want to toss this out. It was meant for Paul, but I think Anand could actually answer this as well. Our buddy Sven is back with us this week, and
the man who doesn't sign up for happy hours.
I knew that was coming, Sven. Sorry, I had to set him up for that. But he asked the question. So, Paul, who in a company should drive digital transformation? So Paul, you asked that, and then maybe Anand, you want to take a shot at that too?
Take it away first. I'll respond afterwards. Go ahead.
Yeah, I struggle with this question because I know who it should be, but anybody who has the best handle on the customer engagement that's out there has got to be the person you got to go with. Sometimes that's going to be, in some instances, it's going to be the marketing team, the marketing group. Especially in the retail, hospitality arena. Sometimes it's the customer success, customer support folks who are making that call. In the B2B space, the most interaction with customers has been through sales. So, it doesn't hurt to have, that kind of input in terms of understanding where should the root or strategy of digital transformation reside, or at least have the greatest influence. But yeah, whoever is closest to the customer, who really understands what that means, and everybody says that, right? But what does that truly represent? It means that someone can actually understand an action in the community or the customer ecosystem and see a very positive response, or understand how to handle a very negative response and do that collectively. And I think that's where some of the digital transformations effort. But I mean, you can't do any of this without at least some higher up, whether it's a CEO, CFO, CTO. It's somebody at that C level's got to sit down and say, all right, we're going to make sure that this will remain a focus, and more importantly, this will be such a priority that we're going to deprioritize other things that might be healthy for us in order to make that work. So a lot of companies just make that mistake where digital transformation sounds great, we're going to keep going with it until there's a speed bump or there's other priorities that come into play. That interruption in that transformation process is very detrimental, not only in terms of doing the process, but also in terms of the distraction that your company has as well.
Can't disagree with you at all. I mean, ultimately, you're looking for the C-level, I'll call it the C-level, optimally evangelist, minimally strong supporter, right? That person should be leading the effort, right? I mean, and to your point, too, it could be a CTO, a CFO, or a COO. Years ago, when CRM was, digital transformation of the era, I was doing some work with David's Bridal, and you know who the evangelist was? The CFO, right?
I was going to ask, wasn't it David?
Yeah, no, David hated the idea. But it was actually the CFO of the company. He was the guy who led the charge, and and they weren't ready to do even that bunch. But the reality is, it's the same now. The title itself is important for the C, but less important for the second letter. It was most important is that person is the champion for the entire effort. And ultimately, look, it's going to involve the entire company. So everyone's going to get involved. Right. So, there potentially will be a committee of C-level executives who are leading the charge and getting tons of input from the lower echelon, so to speak. But that single person who is championing it is the person who has to lead the effort.
Let me just throw Jason Lundy totally agrees with you, because he said, I think given today's environment, it's everyone now.
Well, everyone can't lead an effort, right? Otherwise the word lead doesn't work out too well in that one. But he's right in that everyone has to be involved in the effort, and ultimately everyone's not going to be, because not everybody's that wonderful a believer in all this, right? I mean, same as anything else, the world isn't so even keeled or democratically leveled when it comes to companies, so you take what you got and work with it, and then make the transformations with what you got. The one thing is interesting, I'm going to bring it, there's and I have very little knowledge of physics or math. Let me just sort of preface this. But one thing I did learn years ago, there was this mathematician who, and also, actually, he was both a mathematician, and I think he was also a leading guy in physics, and his name is Georg Riemann, right? And Riemannian, there's a concept called Riemannian manifolds, right? Now, again, I am completely butchering what I'm about to tell you, but it suits my purpose.
Don't worry.
So it suits my purpose perfectly. So the idea was that, new things emerged that don't seem to have anything that they could emerge from, but ultimately they emerge from something, right? So, so digital transformation, something like that isn't so fundamentally new that it appears out of nowhere and changes, and stuff changes. It emerged from the fact that an existing infrastructure, an existing group of people, an existing world economic conditions, it observes some existing conditions and structures and people, and consequently, but they reformulate in a new way, which takes it well beyond what they were. The simplest way we always used to put it, and we all do still, 1 + 1 = 3, right? I mean, that's pretty much the same idea, right?
That was one of the most underrated Prince songs ever. 1 + 1 = 3.
See that? Exactly. That answers it.
I had go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, there was a tongue-in-cheek perspective that I thought was actually a pretty good one that I heard in an executive meeting. The CEO, she said, all right, we're going to talk about digital transformation. Who can define it? And the executive that ended up defining it, she ended up being the one to run it. And the reason that worked out really well was that not only could she define it, but she got buy-in from everybody else right then and there, that everyone agreed to that definition. But also the important part was that she happened to be very well in tuned with the machine and the ecosystem internally, like all the operations, all the processes, the people. She was very well respected by the team internally. This firm actually relies heavily on the partner ecosystem. So how do you ensure that was carried over as well? So those, so maybe it's whoever can define it might be the one who should lead it. Because if you can do that, then you're already more than a quarter of the way there.
Yeah.
Well, that, I guess, whoever defines it and can get everybody to agree to it, I think that's the combination you're looking for. And matter of fact, let's look at an example of a company that seems to have done that. I'm trying to bring everybody else here. This is pretty amazing. Sometimes, you get to a point where you have to do it. And I think we're here with the pandemic. People are not going to be able to shop the way they did before the pandemic. That means that companies have to adjust. And Well, I'm trying to think of there's a movie called Heartbreak Ridge, Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah.
And there was a little saying he had about what you had to adapt and overcome or something like that. And so when people are scared to leave their houses but they still need to eat, you need to do something that allows for that fear to be alleviated enough for them to come out. And you got to do things differently. And Kroger, they put together a blueprint for what people can do, at least what they did, and kind of their best practices for making the changes necessary to allow their customers to feel comfortable enough about doing something they had to do, but were getting more and more afraid to do it. So, whoever made this blueprint up, I'm guessing the executive is at the beginning, the CEO, but it's driven from like everybody. And I think you do need everybody on board in order to get to the point where you have people coming back and you're able to write a blueprint that you can share with everybody else.
Yeah. That blueprint's really, it's really good. I actually used, after you turned me on to it, I used it in my column this week as one of the things, useful information on how, because this thing is universal application, especially in physical plant, of some kind. But it's a remarkably well done thing. It's better than the quality of the food they carry. Let's say.
I wasn't going to say I still shop at Ingles, but
I totally get it. That hasn't changed. And by the way, the Clint Eastwood quote, I looked it up, was, "You're Marines now. You improvise, adapt, and overcome."
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. I'm a big Clint Eastwood fan, so of course I love that. But all right, this is good conversation. This kind of was a little bit of a carryover from yesterday.
Yeah,
that looks a lot better, Anand.
Thank you.
You were playing with the lights. I saw something that looked good. I just thought I'd point that out.
I appreciate it. There we go.
All right. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Let me go back and bring in, because we are going to do, I need to do this guy and then do this guy and then bring in this guy, Alan Berkson, who is from Freshworks. What's your official title?
Global Director of Community Outreach and Analyst Relations.
Holy God.
It's too much, right?
Not just
local. You can blame Esteban Kolsky because he said that.
No, you can just stop right there.
Outreach.
We just want to blame
you don't even have to worry about it.
By the way, wait. But Paul, I just have to say, if you're going to quote Clint Eastwood, it's overcome, adapt, improvise.
Okay. If I did that I'd literally have a surgery for another cyst.
Yeah, we got to protect Paul's.
Okay,
Thanks
for that, though.
But thanks, Gunny. Highway. All right, so we're bringing on our buddy Alan for a particular purpose, because it is that time where we break out the segment that everybody is talking about. Pins.
Everybody on this screen except Anand.
He's sitting there.
The three of us are talking about it.
What are these guys talking about?
By the way, hey Anand, it's been a while. How you doing?
Yeah, I know. They keep adding responsibility to your title every time I.
It's crazy.
All right, so we brought him in specifically because we started doing a little segment we call "Protect the Identity, but Not the Stupidity." And that's because all of us get pitches, we get emails, we get DMs of people, and the DMs are just ridiculous sometimes. They're just enough to make you want to pull out your hair if you had any. I wish I could, but not anymore. So we asked people if they had any examples of things that are just ridiculously stupid that they got, but they had to protect whoever the stupid person was. Well, the stupid act. Wasn't a stupid person. So Alan brought us
debatable.
I'm going to share this one, and I'm going to ask Alan to kind of talk us through it. So here is Alan's entry for this week's Protect the Identity, but Not the Stupidity.
All right, there's so much to love here. I don't even know where to start. Let's start by saying this is the third email that I got from this person. So I got the initial pitch, which was irrelevant to me. I've got the follow-up pitch, which was also irrelevant to me. And then I get this beautiful subject. should I stay or should I go? And I've got like an 80s song in my head right now.
Should I stay or should
I go?
Wow. Of course.
But Brent's favorite part, which I will point out, was the second sentence, which is just a thing of beauty. I am 92.5% confident that getting standing desks for your employees would improve their day-to-day productivity. What does that mean?
How the hell do they get 92.5%? That's, I mean, it's already a stupid email to begin with, but then you throw that piece in, it just takes it to a whole other level of stupidity.
Oh, it's actually arguably worse if you look at, he even has a misspelling.
Oh no.
It's not a long email. It's not that hard to spell check.
But the question I have, though, at the end of all this is, Alan, do I have your permission to continue on with this?
No. Do I have your permission to close your file?
No. I think he missed the joke.
That was just absolutely my favorite part. Do I have your permission?
Is that why you highlighted it?
Do I have your permission to stop reaching out to you?
No, you don't.
Or what about the fact that this is for office stuff? Why is Alan the perfect person to address when his title is not anything with office in it? I know it's global and all, but you don't do anything with the office furniture, do you?
I do not.
Maybe they thought the length of your title meant that you were
this goes back to what I think, Brent, you said on one of these. It's like it's not easy to figure out who you are and what you do. Paul, you say that all the time. It's not difficult. You Google Paul Greenberg, you know exactly what he does. It's not hard. And the same thing with me. I'm pretty Googleable, I guess. So
I have a really important question for you. What did you rename to 7.5%?
Wow. We just went to a whole new level on that one.
Yeah. I'm wondering what you renamed it. I don't know. Did you call it like 7 point? No.
We're working on a naming convention. It's actually 0010. No, never mind.
All right. So I've got to interject something in here, and Anand, you got to bear with us for a little bit, because when we first, I know Paul remembers this. He knows where I'm going with this. Yeah. So when we first came up with the idea of pardon,
can I go now?
No, you're not going.
Because I know where this is going. So
tell us what you renamed to 7.5%. Yeah,
right. Keep working on that while we talk. All right. So when we first started doing Protect the Identity, Not the Stupidity, we asked the happy hour, the CRM Playaz happy hour community, thought about this idea. And for the most part, everybody's like, "Oh, this is fun. It's a fun."
I think Alan knows where we're going with this too.
It's fun. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's kind of fun. But there was one person I do recall that had issues about us doing this. Thought it was a little
concerned.
Oh yeah,
concerned.
I was only 7.5% concerned.
He was concerned because it felt a little mean. It felt a little out of character, and it felt like it would be damaging or go against our corporate brand.
I believe I said corporate narrative.
No. You actually said
you did
brand.
I said corporate brand. Okay.
Yes, you did.
Oh wow.
Either one, take your pick. It doesn't matter.
No, there was corporate narrative. You can almost
have either of those.
Corporate brand.
That was the best.
We don't have any of that stuff. So
that was what was so funny. That's like that was news to us, right?
Yeah. News was, do we have a?
Of course, we were 92.5%. We didn't. We did not.
As I heard earlier on the show, apparently your corporate brand is 92.5% making fun of me.
Well,
I think that's the under.
So is this email now a honeypot rule for spam filters? If you see a 0.5% text, start filtering that out now. Did this person set a precedent for
if they can back up the percentages and explain how they got to 92.5%? I'm good.
Do you all have an anonymous Reddit thread going on to let people respond? Because I'm sure not going to come out and tell us right now, right? So there's got to be a way for someone to
No, this is
own
awesome.
it.
So, Alan, did you respond back to this person at all?
No. No.
I do have a real question, Alan. Like, did you click on any of the previous emails?
I always read. I always click on them, read them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless the subject is so obvious that it's just irrelevant.
Right.
But I'm always curious, and I'll give somebody a chance if they, because I've gotten pitches that I was not necessarily relevant, but the person gave an articulate, request. They showed they knew who I was. They knew my business. They said, I know you're not the right person, but this is what I'm trying to do. And here's why it may be relevant to your company. Can you help? And if somebody asks for help, I'm happy. So I'll click on it, but do your homework. Right.
Of course.
Do your arithmetic and make sure that you get more than 92.5%.
You did a market study. You did market research to come up with that.
Well, Anand, do you click on them?
I do the same thing you do. I mean, as an empathetic marketer or being in sales or marketing or trying to solicit business or try to acquire customers or, I mean, honestly, and besides, I think that it's worthwhile for us to know what people are doing so that either we can share those best practices or help other people avoid the bad ones. Right? I think we actually have a responsibility in our industry to do that as people who represent the industry in different ways. And, as much as we're kind of poking fun at this is actually somewhat of a good thing. Now, I mean, maybe we could just we could wrap that part up with what could have this person done better? Clearly should have known what your title was and not really spammed you with this in the first place.
And should have never come up with some pulled out of the.
Yeah, that's totally inauthentic. Voice. Yeah.
Do I have your permission? Do I have your permission to close your file?
It almost feels like I should say, and you want to be my latex salesman.
Yeah. I mean, look, but the other thing I'd ask you, Anand, because you're a marketing expert, this reflects on the brand itself, right? I mean,
yes,
what advice would you give to, because look, I know SDRs, they're trying everything they can to try to get somebody's attention, and it's hard.
Right.
What advice would you give to this person or their manager?
I mean, it's crazy because we live in this world of spamming, and even 1% for some odd reason will continue to perpetuate budgets for a lot of departments, right? I don't know what kind of company this is. Obviously, they're selling freestanding desks. Times are tough, like you said, Alan. But, I think that a lot of people, if they really want to be able to do the hustle, really spend time trying to understand who your audience is with the segment that you've got, and then cater a craft something along those lines. I guarantee you this person's getting a lot of feedback, very angry feedback. And if that continues to get ignored, you're not evolving what you should be doing, which means you're missing out on the opportunity to, make things better. Lots of times I've also seen a lot of people do this is a batch and blast email, guaranteed, right? It's probably from a marketing automation system, sadly enough. Someone just misused it. Power comes responsibility, but this was very irresponsible. But really spending time using these tools in these ways is important to make the most of those relationships. It's an extension of you, just like you said, the brand. So would you want to receive something like this, and would this even help you? And I even liked what you said, Alan, right? I mean, if it's genuine enough to say, look, I know we're kind of on the fringe of potentially having the right, connection here. Let's try to not pretend to be something that we're not, or try to pretend that you are just another, email address in this, big list. So,
and on that note, because this is getting way too positive.
Too positive. Oh no! Did I miss the point?
Yeah. I mean,
what are you trying to do? Wreck our brand?
What's going on here?
I told him ahead of time that we got to fix your brand. So this is the conversation we discussed.
So one other way to respond, Alan, actually, is if they could be a potential customer for Freshworks. You go back and respond and say, look, we can help you. And then so you basically jujitsu, you do a little jujitsu and and then use the momentum back at them.
Let me just say, Eric Charles, who was with us last week, he said he had the Clint Eastwood line, improvise, adapt, overcome. So apparently quoting Clint is a good thing to do for the CRM Playaz audience. And
noted.
I'll
talk to the branding department immediately.
There it is. Make a stop by the narrative.
I need to find my cat, right?
Because you got to find your cat so that we can get this done. But in the meantime, you know what time it is, folks. It's the watch list winners segment this week. It's who?
Verint.
Let me give you the full spotlight, and we'll just fade to black.
All right, folks. So, as you know, once again, we're going to highlight the company that won the watch list in reverse alphabetical order. Alan, for example, or somebody from his company will be on in a few weeks. So today's Verint, and Verint's a different kind of company. You know, a lot of the companies we deal with and the watch list deal with, given its name, CRM watch list, are CRM-ish companies, although it's much beyond that as far as what it offers. Customer engagement, customer experience, etc., are all welcome to participate. Verint actually in 2018 called itself the Customer Engagement Company, and they literally have built out everything they do around building out an engagement and a customer experience kind of focused platform, right? The thing about Verint, which made them really particularly a little unusual in this round, is there are certain things that they could use some support in, and, you know, some let's say growth and evolution in, but there were some things that just stood out tremendously against the crowd. So, for example, I mean, aside from the actual submission, which is 153 pages, extremely well done submission, there were roughly 4 areas, I think, that they really drove them to kind of a victory here. The first one is the mission and vision, which we'll go into briefly in a minute. The second one was the technology that they actually offer, which we'll touch on. The third one was partners and alliances, which they're not along the typical alliances and partnerships that we look at, you know, which tend to be technology vendors aligned with other technology vendors, but are also partners and alliances, partnering in alliances with Genesis and a lot of the telco providers, right? The communications providing companies. And finally, and this is actually something that a lot of companies didn't do very well in, but these guys really kicked it in, which was on privacy and their adherence to privacy laws and their willingness to respect the customer's privacy. They were tremendous in those 4 areas. I'll focus a little bit on mission and vision because that's the part that is actually when most companies work, given that it's supposed to be something that permeates everything you do at a company, ranging from all the other subject areas I just talked about to the way, literally, your entire culture is driven by your mission and vision. And these guys have a very strong perspective on that mission and vision. And I'll read you a couple of excerpts so you get an idea of what the power is. One of the things that on the vision side, which is usually where most companies fall down. Some of them are very strongly mission driven and are very good about their missions, but most companies are not very good about it. Even if they are visionary in some way, they're not very good about the presentation of that vision into the marketplace. These guys actually see themselves as their vision is essentially to keep the world, and this is a very odd vision, but you'll understand it when I elaborate, to keep human beings part of customer engagement in the world. Right. And that's a summation of a lot of what they said. And the way they look at it is that a lot of the companies out there are trying to innovate around customer engagement, and they're trying to figure out the new models to actually engage customers with. And they're recognizing that customers' demands are greater than ever. And the way they tend to approach it is by creating some sort of distance from actual people in order to scale appropriately to actually be able to engage customers. And they see it, from the standpoint, most of the companies see it as personalization, right? How do you provide what? An optimized offer that shows enough about the customer to provide them with something that seems relevant to that customer. These guys take it a little differently. They said, no, that's a much bigger deal than that. They said, look, the idea is that human connection is extremely important, and you build out all the other things so that the human connection becomes even more important. So that, in other words, look, you can automate a lot of the utilitarian needs of engagement, right? What's your address? Make sure I get it effectively. Make sure I get it in the format I'm looking for. Make sure I get it on the device I want it on, and make sure I get it in the time I need. And those are automatable. You don't have to worry about them, right? So you do the things by building out the platform you need, by building out the communications medium you need, the media you need, and by building out the knowledge by building out the technologies and via the analytics, etc., that you need to understand the customer better. You just take care of that stuff. The rest can be left to people, right? In that regard, and that's where humanization comes in, and they understand that, and they built it into their platform. So, for example, about 6 or 7 years ago, they bought 5 or 6 years ago, they bought a company called Major Oak, and it was run by Adam Golden, and it was a company that focused on nothing but customer journey mapping, right? And they incorporated that, right, into everything they did technologically, and at the same time kept a consulting arm to handle even the old school types of journey mapping that they had to handle, right? Because there's a lot of customers who just don't get it from the standpoint, let's say the most advanced standpoint, something like a Thunderhead or somebody else presents. So these guys have taken care of the needs of the customer from the human side, also from the standpoint of personalization. The interesting thing too, though, is that even though they're not a CRM company, the technology they have handles a lot of very complex CRM needs. Part of that, the genesis of that, comes from the fact that many, many years ago, Kana, when it was independent, bought a company called Sword Caboodle. Sword Caboodle handled complex contact center interactions and transactions. Then Verint bought Kana, right? So they have a very advanced model that is built around customer service, right? It's very advanced. In fact, one of the best in the industry, and it's one of the strongest in the industry when it comes to technology, a lot because of its integration with all the communications providers too. The other side is that makes them very strong and really supports them is that they truly believe and they truly act on the privacy requirements of companies. Not only are they GDPR compliant, obviously, and CCPA compliant, all the things that you kind of need to be at this point, but they also have built their technologies to help their customers become compliant equally so. And the only other company I know has actually done that really well has been SAP. So you're talking about something that is substantial. And the funny thing with Verint is a lot of people don't really know the company that you'd think, except that they're $1 billion company. This is not a small company. And because they also handle some things around employee engagement, they have a lot of other areas that I'm not focused on for here. They have a lot of other areas that they do the work in. They have a full package of end-to-end engagement platform, end-to-end engagement package. And they have not really quietly, but quieter than others, had real impact in the market, have sustainable impact over the next 3 years, and at the same time have provided the technology and the partnerships for ecosystems and platforms, which is how they think, to allow their mission and their vision and their mission to be accomplished. So that in my book that wins, and in my book it did win. So go Verint.
And on that note, there it is. Look at this. We got 5 boxes in here. But we're welcome Ryan Hollenbeck from Verint. First of all,
Hi, Brent.
He's local. He's in Roswell. So we got 3 Atlanta dudes on this thing. This is great.
That's great. Atlanta's in the house.
Wow, pretty damn good one there. I like that. Stay at home. Okay, so Ryan. Okay, look, let me ask you something. First, tell us a little bit about what you're doing I know what you do, but let everyone else know. And then I want to get to some questions about Verint for you.
You bet. Thanks, Paul. And first, let me say thank you for recognizing the Verint company. I mean, it's it's a real honor for us with this award. And I could say, talking about it internally, it's a thrill for the team as well. So thank you. I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Marketing at Verint. I've been with the company for quite some time, and I'm also the executive sponsor of our own customer experience program. We have our own CX program here at Verint as well.
Oh, well, and that's actually kind of where I was going to go. Thank you for your title description. Look, ultimately, that's really my point. One of the things that you guys that I had done an advisory day with you guys a few years ago with Nancy and some of the other people there. And I noticed this then too. And I know it's judging from what I've read and from conversation you and I had not too long ago, and Ryan and Ryan Zook, that is, too, that you actually do. I don't want to use eat your dog food, so I'm a cat person, but eat your cat food. Meaning you have a really strong CX program. It's not just, pro forma. So can you tell people how, obviously I'm sure you use your own stuff, but I don't care about that part. I actually really care more about what you do for your customers, how you think about it, what's your kind of your evolution, and also as on the marketing side, how you put it out there.
Yeah, well, we've been at it for 5 years now. So you're right. It's not just kind of a fly by night thing. And we feel like we're lucky because we have the best customer experience team and professional leading it in the industry in Nancy Port, who you mentioned and you've met, Paul. And what we started out right out of the gates was not only the systems and the processes, and yes, we run it on a lot of Verint technology that you've mentioned already, but the important thing for us was to establish right away, what do our customers expect from us? And some of what you mentioned earlier with Adam and understanding the customer journey and really digging deep into that was a big part of how we started out. And then we tried to marry it up. What are the internal expectations of our own executive team and our own employees? What do they think we're going to be able to deliver for customers? And then do those two things come together? And then from there, we formed an executive steering committee. Fast forward to a series of operational insights that we got from different division heads. And then we formed what we call a catalyst network, where you've got people on the ground in each functional area, support, services, sales, operations across the board, who are an advocate for the customer within each individual department. And as you know, with Nancy, she's a dynamo. So she's out there on a very regular basis, talking to these staff leaders and making sure that the voice of the customer has a seat at the table. And I make sure it has a seat at the table with our executive team and the board.
How do you decide who the advocates are?
It's kind of a cool thing. Nancy made it fun. And what she allowed everybody to do is volunteer. And we got a lot of volunteers for it. And so you get people that are literally on the phone for doing tech support, or people that are doing implementations of Verint software, and they get nominated by their manager after that, and then they come into the program. So it's cool.
Yeah, I want to jump in real quick and ask what you mentioned, voice of the customer. What's the voice of the customers telling you right now in the middle of this pandemic, and how is that shaping what you guys offer the customers after we get past this?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brent. And we went straight to our advisory board when this whole thing broke and said, hey guys, what do you need from us? And what can we do to help you right now? And they spoke up big time. They just said immediately, can you set up a series of education programs? We call them adapt and respond. But the important thing isn't that, it's that we were there for them right away. And it's not so much trying to offer them anything new. It's like a lot of software that we all have, even on our apps, on our phones, we don't use all the functionality. So what can you use out of what you already have from Verint to help you move everybody from home? Things like workforce scheduling, or using your mobile device to make sure that all those agents, remember, you're talking in some cases, hundreds of thousands of people that went into buildings and answered phone calls and other multimedia interactions, with customers, all at home now. So how do you schedule them, and how do you figure out how to understand what customers are calling about using the analytics and that sort of thing? So we set up a very, specific and targeted series of programs to help them with that. How many people are calling into the call center right now that I might have that's related to COVID-19? And how often is the COVID-19 word or the pandemic word or the coronavirus word used in each of those calls that come into the call center? We told them all you have to do is set those up as categories in your existing speech analytics solution, and you're good to go. You can use the mobile app to schedule all your people, and you're good to go. So we set up these series of programs in order to try to help them right away. And I'll tell you, Brent, it's been crazy. It's been absolutely crazy how many, to see all these customers all over the world immediately go home and immediately deploy all of their agents, thousands, hundreds of thousands of them all over the world, to be able to respond to customers. It's a significant challenge.
How are you doing on all this?
Yeah, thanks, Paul, for asking. You know what? I'm doing all right. It's crazy. It's been crazy, but it's good. I'm really proud of what the team's been able to put together, and I think the Verint brand has been able to shine in all of this as a company that's been able to be there to respond. But I'm trying to get my exercise and get out there every day. I'm in Atlanta, like two other guys on the phone, so we've kind of been in and out of social distancing and physical distancing, whatever we call it. And there's a lot of pollen in the air right now, right, fellas? So we're trying to deal with allergies and all that kind of stuff. But I'm doing good. Thank you.
I haven't seen as much kudzu.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. Is it afraid of the coronavirus or something? Because you trees and stuff. It's kind of amazing how I'm not seeing any of that. But hey, that's okay.
Yeah. It could be the cure for the COVID, and we were spending so much time getting rid of it when we should have probably preserved a little bit of that, I guess.
Man, I hope it is. Good point. I hope it is, because we got a lot of it.
Paul, what do you think? Should we ask Ryan kind of the question of the day that came out of the happy hour yesterday?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, that's a good idea. All right. So I don't know if you picked up the early part of the show, but we were talking about the question is people really undergoing digital transformation, or are they just doing a digital analog shift? And for me, it's the latter, not the former. So how do you guys perceive that? Because let's face it, you're the SVP of you're leading marketing for the company. So marketing, you're going to say the words digital transformation, but the real question is it really? And I contend it isn't. I don't contend any. I think we're on the way to it. I mean, it's sprinting toward the start, as I said, but not the finish. And COVID-19 just sparked a massive shift toward digital tool use, which is not the same. So what's your perspective?
Well, I think you're right that we're not there. I mean, I'll say that right out of the gates, but I do think that a lot of our customers are talking about it and want to get there.
Right.
And that means different things for different customers. So, it depends on, what they're exactly trying to do. But I think you're right when you think about things like, for us, it means not just taking phone calls. It means how are you responding to chat sessions and social channels and all these other kinds of things that are related to customer engagement. Can you understand what's happening with the customer across all of these different channels? You guys talk about this stuff all the time with omni-channel and everything else, and it was a big part of what we think about in terms of our vision going forward. But I would agree with your sentiment, Paul, that we're not there yet. It's a journey. But it's certainly something that customers are talking about. And now more than ever, I think you're right. A lot of the technology that we're deploying nowadays, not just Verint technology, but just in general, these are things that have existed for quite some time. They just haven't used them. They haven't put them effectively to use in order to figure out what is the specific next step on their digital transformation journey. For us, we think about it a lot related to the customer experience or experience management, voice of the customer, like you were just saying, Brent. That's a big part of it for us, and that means on the actual website, not just filling out a survey. What's it like on your website, and are you responding to the customer effectively? All of that. So I think it's a journey. We're on our way, but we're not there yet.
Well, I mean, let me throw another dart. So from my standpoint, digital transformation needs culture change. It literally needs business model change. I mean, you're talking about a business transformation. It's pretty fundamental to companies. And it's the reason we call it digital transformation, aside from the, sounds cooler, is it's aligning with effectively a digital age, right? But it's alignment with the age. It's not that, but the way it gets interpreted, and I see this in the big SIs, I see this from all these guys, right? Is essentially, no, it means, the way they're doing things is, effectively all they're saying is, well, look, I'll tell you what, we will add a lot of digital properties and digital capabilities to your existing tool set. But that doesn't change your culture, and that doesn't change your business models, and that doesn't change, effectively how your employees and customers engage. It just adds a bunch of tools to your tool set. And the interesting thing is, you look at, I've seen literally one study on productivity that's come out since COVID-19 began and lockdowns began, and it said productivity has decreased by 0.1%. That's it. That's the entire amount of studies I've seen on that. Now, you can make the case that that's perfectly acceptable given the circumstances, and because we're in the tech industry, it's easier for us because we have been using that tech, right? And we view things from our own lens too, which is a big problem, actually. The rest of the world had a much harder time of it than we did, and still is having a bit of a hard time, and it's creating all kinds of other issues, but none of them are related to fundamental business transformation, right? They're related more to, mental stability, right, and emotional stability than they are to that, right? So that's where I'm going here, and you'll see a lot of, from me anyway, and hopefully from the happy hour people, a lot of posts coming out on this thing, pretty much, I think, generally leaning in my direction, I hope. But if not, I'll fight with them.
Wait a minute, you fight with them, but would you fight with this?
No. God, no.
There it is, folks. Now, Ryan, if you saw this gentleman coming in asking you about the customer experience or a voice of the customer question, how would you handle this? I mean, this guy.
At least I get to look him in the eye. That's about all that's left with that mask. I know. It creates a strange scenario. That's for sure. Yeah, no doubt about it.
I always like to end with a little levity and a little, Tim, whatever.
I had a friend whose last name was Levity, so I'll get him. We'll get him on next time, so he can end with
his first name like brevity, or it's
actually, weirdly has the same first name as our man from Freshworks over here. It was Alan. I had Alan Levine was a friend, and Alan Levity was another friend.
And on that note, folks, we've come to the end of another fun-filled episode of CRM.
Clearly.
Let me thank our guests, Ryan Hollenbeck, Anand Thakur. Is Alan really a guest? I mean,
he's just part of the fabric, man. He's part of the fabric.
The fabric of the show. That's and all of our friends that are out there that's been checking us out for the last hour. So on behalf of all of them, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz. We'll see you tomorrow for Excuse the Intrusion if you're in the CRM and sports.
And we have a special guest who we will tell you something special about tomorrow, which is Christine Stoffel, who perhaps as the executive director of Seat. But we have some more to tell you about.
A special announcement. It's like breaking news that'll be coming on.
That's right.
Sports.
We'll be the first on StreamYards to announce it.
Oh, yes, we have the official StreamYard exclusive.
That's right.
Coming up on Excuse the Intrusion. I never can get that right.
Intrude the extrusion.
Yeah, whatever. We'll see you tomorrow.